Hello and welcome to Weird Careers. I'm your host, E.T. All over the world, people have jobs, and some of those jobs we don't even know exist. There are jobs that we don't know a lot about, and there are jobs that we just don't talk about. Well, I'm here to explore all of the above on this podcast. I will be speaking to people all over the globe about their strange and interesting career choices. Everything from specialized retail to sex work. Oh, did I mention that the show is 18 plus? Over the course of this podcast, join me as I take a deep dive into each of these professions. Do you or someone you know have an interesting or weird job? Don't be shy. You'd be surprised how interesting your job really is. Shoot me an email at weirdcareers@gmail.com. This podcast is brought to you by Cardinal Images. Want your small business looking great online at an affordable price? Email Cardinal Images at eric@cardinalimages.ca for your personalized quote. Cardinal Images, amazing quality, incredible pricing, and personable photography. On today's show, we have Kyle Brown. You may have seen him on stage. We'll find out. Here is Kyle Brown, professional stage actor. Welcome, Kyle.
Oh, hello. Thank you. Good to be here.
Oh, and we're very happy to have you. And we forgot to mention you're joining us from Toronto, Ontario.
I am. Yes.
It's funny because normally our first question is, what do you do in a nutshell? However, your job is kind of self-explanatory.
Yes, it is.
So let's just start at the beginning.
All right.
How it all started, finding your passion to today.
Church. Jesus.
Right on.
No, I was a kid. I was a kid in Sunday school, going to church, and the thing I was most drawn to, I would say, was all the Sunday school songs, and I could watch the choir get up there and sing. And I went to a very kind of Pentecostal church growing up, so that is they're very heavy on music. They're very heavy on there's drums, there's all kinds of stuff, choirs, singers, and I was just so enamored as a young child. I wanted to take part. And I started singing. In church. And eventually that translated into me finding other opportunities to be in front of people at school. So any little play that was happening, any opportunity that I had, that's what I did. Awesome. And that's where it went. Yeah. But it didn't really translate to stage performance until high school.
Okay.
I would say. Yeah. I went when I was in the 8th grade, my school took a trip to the local high school, Paul Dwyer Catholic High School.
And we at Paul Dwyer Catholic High School for anybody from there who's listening.
Yes. Would you know anything about that school, perhaps?
Maybe.
So our grade 8 class went to see their production of Into the Woods, and from my grade 8 self, that was the first theater show that I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, aside from the Christmas plays at church and things like that, that was the first. I lie. We did go to see Joseph some years earlier with Donny Osmond.
Beautiful. Oh, with Donny Osmond.
Yeah. But I was so young. It's all like a blur. But I remember my mom was just, she loved the Osmonds for some reason. Had some affinity love with them. Yeah. So we went to see that. But the first time I really that grade 8 show was to me the first show that I was old enough to really intake. And it was just a high school production. But to me, being 13 years old, it was the coolest thing. And I knew I was going to that school, and I just thought I can do this too, perhaps. So I auditioned for the performing arts program. I got in, and then I did my first 2 musicals, JCS and Les Mis with the school. And that was kind of like the start for me. And then I went down.
For those who don't know, JCS is Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yes, correct. Jesus Christ Superstar. let me. But the path wasn't like a straight path, it was kind of twisty turny, and I did some other things too. So I went off to a Bible college. I was studying to be a minister. I was very devoted to my faith and wanted to make a difference in that way.
Fantastic.
And but that didn't really pan out the way that I thought it was going to.
Okay.
And then I came back and I studied, music production, sound engineering, and then Mr. Schneider, my high school drama teacher,
Shout out to
sent me a
Michael
Facebook
Schneider.
message. Yes, Michael Schneider, great,
Yes.
drama teacher from high school,
Absolutely.
and they were doing a community production of Les Mis again at the Oshawa Little Theater, and he wanted me to come audition and to just be part of the production. And I hadn't done a show, since high school.
Wow.
So that was at that point, 9 years before.
Wow.
And he invited me out to audition. I did the production, and it just clicked back again. I had forgotten how fun it was. And I had so much fun. And
I gotta ask, what role did you get?
I played Enjolras this time around.
Oh,
yes. In high school, I played Javert.
I remember that. That you rocked that role, I will say.
Yeah, but and then he made me wear this ponytail, this like long horse made ponytail.
Oh my god, I remember. Oh god.
Oh my goodness. Sometimes I look back at pictures of that production and just laugh. Like, I was such a baby. We were all so young, and that ponytail was great. It was pretty great.
It when there was a matinee, and Adam and I would have the same lunch, and it'd be so weird because you'd see this, see young people, and then all of a sudden there's one guy with white hair right in the middle of the cafeteria. And because he just didn't have the time to wash it out, he was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go.
I know.
But I'll be honest with you, your production, your performance of Javert actually inspired me to do stars for most of my auditions for community theater, I will say.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah, which, as you've seen, has got me a couple places.
Yeah.
But yes, so shout out to your performance of Javert, because I was on stage with you, and
yes, you were.
It was a phenomenal performance. That was the first time I was on stage, actually.
Yeah. That's what's so cool about like high school productions and things like that. It really gives people an opportunity to express themselves. It gives a lot of people, that first time on stage.
Oh yeah.
It's really, really cool. Like, and our high school had put on some really good productions. I mean, Michael Schneider was, really bent on doing the best he could and making, the best productions that he could with a group of high school students, some of them first time on stage,
exactly.
And we did, I would say we did a very good job,
Well, with his connections to the Oshawa Little Theater, I mean, and his vision. So he had that community theater vision, right, and bringing that community theater quality to a high school is what was phenomenal. So again, shout out to Michael Schneider. And I will say, rest in peace to Joyce.
Yes.
She was the reason I got into theater, actually. Funny story for you, Kyle. I'm not sure if you knew this. Grade 9, I was sitting in my geography class with Mr. LaFontaine. Shout out to Mr. LaFontaine. If you are listening, I doubt, but if you are, kudos, thank you.
Right.
And Joyce walked in and pulled me aside, and she said, I noticed that you hadn't auditioned for Jesus Christ Superstar. Why is that?
Wow.
And I said, I'll be honest with you. I wanted to take the performing arts program first, get a little bit of that experience, and then dive into it. And she's like, she encouraged me. She's like, there is still a little bit of time to audition. She encouraged me to do so. I didn't. I did do stage crew for that one.
Yes.
I do remember that. That was fun.
Yeah.
But the next year, because of Joyce Schneider, I was on that stage.
Yeah, Joyce was such a invested teacher and coach. I remember always feeling like when she was such an active and intentful listener as well. Like anytime you spoke to her, you were the only person that was present. and she would look
Absolutely.
at you, and she would like really, really, really listen
Mhm.
to anything that you had to say. She was so encouraging. Honestly, like she was my favorite teacher there. No offense, Michael, but she she really was the one teacher that I felt like really kind of understood, really
Mhm.
cared, to listen, and really was patient and drew out
Yes.
the best that she could out of every single student that passed her. So, um, you know,
I
we
remember
miss
when she
her.
was remember when she was
Yeah.
music directing Les Mis, um, and it was right before Christmas. Michael gathered all the cast, crew, band, and said, that her cancer was back, and she continued
Hmm.
to music direct that show right after her surgery.
Yeah.
She was waving that baton through every performance. She was a rock star. She
Yeah.
was the strongest woman I had ever known.
Yeah.
So yeah, little in memoriam, rest in peace, Joyce Schneider.
Yes. And I'm so glad that just to tie things back, that Michael had reached out to me about doing Les Mis at the Oshawa Little Theater, because
Mhm.
in reconnecting with them, who I hadn't seen again in 8 or 9 years, um, I got to see her again, and I got to meet with her, and it was really, really great.
That's
And
fantastic.
it was just a few months later that she ended up, passing in the middle of our production that Michael was directing, and so
Oh
we had to get
man,
a different director to come in and finish it off, and so that was tough, but
of course.
and especially for the family. But I again, it was really, the timing of everything was just very strange, and it was nice to be able to see her again, because she
Mhm.
really did have an impact on me, as a student, as a singer, as a human, just an incredible woman.
Absolutely. And I think you had an impact on many students and
Yeah,
just many, many people. I had the opportunity to work on stage with her
yeah,
um,
amazing.
at Whippy Courthouse Theater during their production of Sweeney Todd.
Oh, nice,
And
nice,
she
nice.
was the old beggar woman. And oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it was a different side of Joyce,
Hmm.
and it was fun. It
Yeah,
was fun working alongside her,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I loved it.
yeah.
Um, Thank you, Joyce Schneider, for everything that
Thank you,
you've been able to
Joyce.
do for so many people throughout your life.
Yes.
So, being a professional actor, and I know you would use that in air quotes, but I'm
Yes.
not. I'm not going to. What is the process of getting a show on the go? Like, I know that in community theater, you're
Yeah.
looking at about a 3 to 4 month window from auditions
Yeah.
to opening night.
Right.
Now, obviously, you are going to be coming into a show that is already on the stage.
Yes.
It's already it's well, at that time
At
was
that time.
running.
Yes.
So how does that differ from community theater?
Well, yeah, you've got a production that has been, especially in the case of Come From Away, running. It was running for 2 years. 2 years at that point, and going into its third year.
Mhm.
Doing 8 shows a week. That's a lot of performances. That's a lot of performances. But what happens is that you have this kind of mechanism, this machine that is got all its parts moving so well, and everyone knows what to do. So the production time and the prep time is actually a lot shorter, especially for me,
Mhm.
um, in terms of coming into the production. But
Mhm.
even like when the cast is first cast,
Yeah.
I was gonna have about the same amount of time as they did. So which is about 6 weeks, right? So on average, you
Oh.
get it. Yeah, it's not as
Oh.
much time as it is with it. That being
Mm.
said, this is the job. So when you are dealing with community theater and things like that, a lot of people are working multiple, have other jobs. So the rehearsal
I
schedule has to be um, fitting to that. So you might have
right.
rehearsals a few nights a week for 3 hours,
Yep.
versus in the middle of the day, you might have a long rehearsal, 4 or 5 times a week, 8 hours a day. So
I
it's just more
see.
intensive,
Yes.
right? You get a lot less time in terms of the like duration of weeks or whatever it is, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot more intensive. So I had 6 weeks to learn. Coming in as someone who has filling a role to a production that's already been running was very interesting for me as well, because my rehearsals were completely separate from the cast. I
Okay.
would rehearse with the director, and then like a swing or something like that, a couple swings from the show.
Mm-hmm. What's a
And
swing? Sorry.
oh yeah, so a swing is just a person. So a swing is a person who has to learn multiple roles and is essentially ready to perform any of those roles
Okay.
when it's needed, right?
So
Um,
understudy, so to say.
Sort of like an understudy, yeah. An
Okay.
understudy typically is given maybe one role, like a major role for like the lead role or something like
Okay.
that. And then a swing, is learning kind of multiple tracks and goes on whenever somebody is called out, whenever somebody is, on vacation,
Okay.
that kind of thing. And again, multiple roles.
Wait, you actors get vacation?
Yeah,
What?
we do. Amazing, right?
Awesome.
So so I would rehearse with like a swing or two, and I was very nervous because my first, like, I think there was a plans to have maybe a rehearsal with the cast, but it was like
Mhm.
one run through maybe, and then
Okay.
you're on stage with the rest of the cast. So you haven't really formed that sort of rehearsal thing with them,
Yeah.
because I was coming in late. They all got to do that at the beginning,
Yeah.
and I was just going to get thrown in, right? So very nervous. So I guess one blessing about this pandemic is that I think we're all going to end up going back into rehearsals, and I'll get to kind of work that out with my castmates. So
That's really
who are
awesome.
all quite amazing and super talented. Yeah.
So Fantastic. you now have touched on that you are in a show in Toronto called Come From Away,
Yes.
that is with Mervish
Yes.
Productions. And not only that, this is also your debut with Mervish
Yes, it
Productions,
is.
which
Yeah.
is absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
So tell me about that audition process. What was it like, and what was it like getting that call?
Oh man. So the audition process, this is what, like, this whole thing just was a little bit wild for me. I was not very active
Mhm.
in theater for literally a couple of years before. There was just a lot of things kind of happening in my life at the time,
Mhm.
in my personal life, where I kind of was taking a break.
Yeah.
And then I found out about these auditions a while back. It
Mhm.
was, let's say, October or something, about the possibility of a position opening up. Now, the show had been running for 2 years, and I had known a few people in the cast, had worked with a few people in the cast, and I heard there was a potential that come the spring, uh, there may be a position opening up that they were looking to fill. So I, submitted a resume and kind of forgot about it.
Okay.
And then, 4 or 5 months later, I get a call to come in for an audition. And at that point, again, I had been like kind of inactive. I had kind of forgotten about it. And I honestly was feeling a little bit overwhelmed with this
Okay.
process.
Mhm.
I had like a breakdown. I almost didn't go to the audition.
Oh,
I felt
wow.
vastly unprepared. I felt vastly, I was in a very fragile moment in my life,
Mhm.
and I just wasn't sure. And I had a friend who's in the cast who just said, like, let's meet, let's talk. I can kind of go through it with you.
Yeah.
And her name is Sasha. She plays Hannah and others. And
Oh, yes.
yes, and so we just met. She also, yeah. Anyway, so we just met real quickly, and she kind of honestly just became a therapist for a day. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I gotta go embarrass myself. I'm not like, I felt again out of practice. I
Mhm.
felt overwhelmed with some personal things, and I just didn't know if I could go into that room and make it happen without just like looking like an idiot and whatever. And at the end of the day, she said to me, you have an amazing opportunity ahead of you.
Yeah.
If anything, just go and have a good time. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to do that.
Yeah.
And so we worked through it a little bit, and then I went in for the audition
Mhm.
and was notified I got a call back. And the callbacks are when I kind of knew that something was going well, because the response was great. I went to the callbacks. They did them all day. Then they asked me to return, and they had it just me and another guy. and we did some dance, some
Nice.
choreo, and then I got the call. I was actually on my way to a concert, and I got the and I got the call, and I was meeting a friend. We were going to meet for dinner, and we were going to go to a concert, and happened to be Christina from high school. Yeah,
Oh,
Christina Lareal. So,
fantastic.
and we hadn't seen each other in some time, right? And for those listening, Christina is a high school friend of mine who was also big into like the theater in high school, and we did some shows together. So I got that call right before I was going to meet her. So I had great news to share with her when we arrived, and then we celebrated by going to a concert, and it was a really, really cool feeling. Also, it being my debut, and you know, I definitely felt some imposter syndrome and things like that, and I'm very, very nervous. And I remember feeling like I tricked all these people into like casting me somehow. You know what I mean? Which is just such a weird thing to think about yourself. But like, I was like, yeah, I tricked them. But no, it was a real, like, I was very, very, very excited. And then I got another call.
Oh yeah.
So I had about rehearsals come around, and I had about only 4 or 5 rehearsals.
Yeah.
And then we got a call saying we're going to be shut down for 2 weeks. So this has been the longest 2 weeks of my life.
Yeah, no kidding, right? That kind of leads. What we'll do is actually right now we're just going to take a quick break. And just to listen to a word from our sponsors, then we'll kind of come back, and that kind of leads right into our next question. So hang tight. We've got a couple words from our sponsors. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Are you a small business owner struggling to keep up with large corporations and their media companies? Not to worry. With Cardinal Images, you will be able to get your business looking amazing online at an affordable price. And guess what? Listeners of this podcast not only get their demo images, but also their first session free. To redeem your free shoot, email Eric at cardinalimages.ca with the subject line podcast promo. Cardinal Images, amazing quality, incredible pricing, and personable photography. Welcome back to Weird Careers. We are joined from Toronto, Ontario, by Kyle Brown.
Woo!
Woohoo! I don't know why you would be joining us halfway through this podcast, unless you really just wanted to just scroll halfway through. Regardless, welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about your production in Come From Away,
right?
And we're literally just talking about you had done 2 weeks of rehearsal, like 4 rehearsals, I think you said.
Yeah.
And then
and the pandemonium, the Panda Express, the pandemic, the world pandemic that we still find ourselves in. And it was interesting because the feel was, you could feel it coming. I mean, we were all, my last rehearsal there, the resident, the director had our stage manager just kind of like online, like giving updates, and the NBA, had just shut down, and then we heard Broadway was shutting down, and we're thinking like it's a matter of time for us, right? So I kind of knew that this might happen, but of course I was not prepared for anything. And I it's just so funny the way these things work out. I was like, this really is happening to me right now. Like, I really just booked this. I'm really just starting. I was so excited. I was supposed to be on stage in, 5 weeks. My first performance was supposed to be April 6th, 2020. Wow. Yeah. So that was, obviously, I've still not been on stage with the cast and the crew. And so I'm really, really looking forward to that. But it really kind of, I would say I took it well. But I think mostly that's because I was so unsure of what was happening. I mean, we got a notice saying we're going to be off for about 2 weeks, and I believed it. I was like, okay, we'll take a 2-week break. So it didn't hit me so hard. I wasn't so upset in the beginning. And then it was like, oh, this is going on and on and on. And then realizing like, oh, this is going to be a while. And then having to adjust to that, right? And then suddenly, Pardon?
I just said that was perfect timing.
Oh yeah. So then, you know, um, the contract gets terminated officially because you know uh, we're not doing anything for the foreseeable future. So I'm like, I'm without work. There's no live productions happening, and I'm just at home taking benefits, trying to figure out what do I do with my life and what's going to be
Exactly.
happening. You know.
So the question is, like,
Yeah.
what's the what was for you, I guess, what was the difference between the pandemic and the stereotypical starving artist? Like, what was there a difference between the two?
Well, yeah, because when you're a starving artist, you still have an outlet, you know, and
Very true.
beyond the financial part of it, um, an artist just wants to create. An artist just wants to tell the story. An artist just wants to do what it is that they do.
Mhm.
And for somebody in a sector that is heavily dependent on an audience, live performance, you're starved in a different way now, right? You know, it's not just financially, you're
Right.
starved artistically and
Mhm.
emotionally and spiritually if you want. And it's difficult because what we saw was a lot of people trying to adjust, trying
Yes.
to pivot from live performance to doing whatever they could online, um, doing, you know, just to get what was inside of them out of them.
Yeah.
And I didn't really do a lot of that. I took the opportunity to sort of just like introspect and do some personal, I guess, healing and things like that that needed to be done.
Good. Good for
Um,
you.
but I still like. I mean, I love to perform. I love to be on stage. I love to tell the stories. I love to. So it's difficult um, to know that what you do for a living is so fragile.
Yeah.
We took a lot of things for granted, I think,
Mhm.
especially the arts and live performances
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
and knowing that like in a situation like this that like that's the first thing to be deemed non-essential, you know.
Right.
And it's such a weird thing to be like what is essential and what isn't, right? Because
Yeah.
these things are, you know, essential in many other ways, you know.
Of
um,
course. Yeah.
and so obviously, you know, it's not the same thing as somebody in the medical field or making sure your basic needs are met, getting food, getting
Of
shelter, that
course.
kind of thing, which is in a pandemic the most important thing. But
Mhm.
societally, you know, I would say the arts are essential. And they did get us through the pandemic. And like everyone said, when, you know, it
Exactly.
wasn't live performance, but everyone turned to Netflix and Hulu and HBO and
Exactly.
actors and entertainers and musicians
Of
to get
course.
them through this pandemic. So um, it's very essential, I think, as a species for us to invest in our arts community and find a way
Yes.
to keep it alive and to protect it. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I agree with you 100%.
yeah,
The arts are it is essential. I would agree arts is essential because it's an outlet for some people.
yeah.
People like yourself and myself. The arts are crucial in getting that creative outlet and maintaining your mental health
Hmm.
is very, very important on that side. And then on the other side, it's the social aspect.
Yeah.
Getting together with a group of people, not only on stage, backstage, but for the audience.
Hmm.
I might go out for a night at the theater, go to a nice restaurant, then go to the theater. I lost track how many times my wife and I would do that. We
Yeah.
would go to Stratford, we would go to dinner, and then we would go to the Avon
Hmm.
and we would just go see a show.
Yeah.
And as soon as that was cut off, it was now what?
Hmm.
Well, I
Yeah.
want to go on a date. Oh, we can't. Oh,
Yeah.
huh. Well, can we go for? No, you can't go for. Yeah, shit.
Not going, not happening, not today.
Exactly. So I'm. So what is there a timeline for you right now? Now that things are starting to open up, things are starting to relax a little bit. People are getting their shots.
Yeah.
Things are starting to look up. Do you have a timeline returning to work?
I don't know what I'm allowed to say.
That's fair. That's fair.
No, here's what I'll say. Rivers has been really, really great. They've been in contact with us.
Mhm.
They try to communicate with us the best we can, even though Technically we don't, like, I'm not on a contract, but they've been very clear about the fact that they do want this show to return. This will be probably the first thing that does return
Good.
from from Mervish. And
Fantastic.
we're hoping, sometime in the late fall. But we don't know. Everything is up in the air.
Wonderful.
Everything is up in the air. Things are looking better, but we're, dependent on what happens with the province, how many people get their vaccines. There's so many moving parts and logistics to putting on a production like this that we cannot, they can't guarantee anything at this point, I would say. But I mean, as things are opening up, of course, we're hoping to get back to work as soon as possible, and getting this show back on the stage. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. Yeah. So hopefully, late fall, maybe winter. I don't know. We'll see what happens. That's, I think, the general hope.
So there is light at the end of that tunnel.
There's light. There's light. We will return. And it's approaching. I just don't know exactly when. And if everyone does their part, the sooner we get back. So as soon as people
I look forward to coming to see you on that stage.
Yes, that'll be great.
And getting some pizza.
Of course. Yeah.
So we're getting into the final rounds of questions here. I just want to say thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's been a blast. And honestly, just catching up has been great.
Yeah,
I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the show.
Yes.
But I did not. Kyle and I actually went to high school together, and we have shared the stage a few times.
If you haven't picked up already at this point.
Exactly. If you haven't, then I'm really sorry that you haven't picked up yet. I might go get that looked at.
Yeah.
But yes, Kyle and I, we go way, way, way back, and we recently just got back in touch.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm like, hey, wait a second. Maybe we'll do this thing. So it's been great having you on. I wish you all the best with Come From Away. We will come back to that very briefly before we let you go. But let's get into this roundhouse of questions. What is the best part of the job?
The best part of the job, I would say, is the energy exchange that happens in any kind of live performance, which obviously we're not experiencing at this moment. But for me, live performance, live theater is so special and unique. And I love that there's a different energy every night. The exchange between your castmates, the exchange with the audience, getting to tell a story, getting to move someone emotionally, getting to have them think about something in a new light. It's amazing that you can tell a story and really affect someone's life, and really make change. So it's that exchange, it's that intellectual, that emotional exchange that happens during any performance that I just love, Yeah.
So we did the best. What's the best part of the job? If there was anything you could change about your profession, what would it be and why?
I still am not... Okay, a couple things.
Okay.
I still don't love auditions, but that's just me. Some people love them. I just don't like them. I don't like them. Which is like a major part of the job, because it's like audition, numbers game, get rejected, land roll,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of kind of fortitude that you build by that process.
Okay.
And but I don't like them.
Who does? I personally don't know anybody who likes auditions.
Yeah. And then especially like the times, and you just, if you got other things going in, it's a hustle for sure. And so that's the hard part, but I mean, that's what makes it worth it. It's definitely it's a lot of work to land something, and then hoping that contract will sustain you. And there's a lot of, we're doing multiple things, and it's the gig economy, right? And you're trying to make sure you stay afloat. And so that's the one thing. And then the other thing would just be you're kind of dependent on sometimes on what's happening around you, like the roles that are available, the shows that are being produced.
Yeah,
you know, unless you're creating your own kind of work, producing your own shows, sometimes it's just like there's no roles that I fit right now. What am I supposed to do? You know? So and you find other sources of work. But I don't know. I think that sometimes, especially in theater, it can be a little bit I think we could broaden our horizons on the types of stories that we tell. For sure.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's the only other thing I would say. But it's really great overall. Like I don't have a whole lot of complaints. You know?
That's good.
Yeah.
I can't see too many complaints coming from being able to be on stage every night.
It's great. Yeah. I mean, it's exhausting. It's
Oh,
exhausting.
I bet.
Even like having done like you're doing it multiple times a week, and you have to give that energy to each performance. It's definitely it pulls from you, but it's so
Absolutely.
worth it. Yeah.
And do you have any advice for anyone looking to pursue acting as a career?
I always hate giving advice because like I just don't feel qualified to give anyone advice, but I could just like tell my experience and like
Yep.
I don't, you know, I feel like I'm just random wandering sometimes and like fumbling through things, fumbling through life.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, but I would definitely say like the things I've learned is one to do as much work as you can, you know. And that means personal work at home too. That means practicing. That means just like trying to be in the right place mentally. There's a lot of stuff that can kind of distract you, and especially when you're talking about acting. Everything you do has to come from such a real and personal place that you really have to be in touch with yourself and your emotions and your feelings. And so doing a lot of personal work is going to be really important. Sticking with it, you know, learning to accept rejection, and just doing it as much as you can. Train, audition, be resilient, and I think like eventually things will work out for you, you know. Yeah,
Lastly,
I guess that's it. I guess
that's
that's it. I don't know. I don't know what to tell people. If you love it,
lastly,
just do it.
because you're starting a new production,
Yeah.
it's called Come From Away. Tell us about your show.
Yes, Come From Away. It's a story of community. It is a story of coming together in a time of crisis, which is what I think is so pertinent about that show, and I think will be a good show to return. So it takes place, you know, September 11th, 2001, when the World Trade Center was attacked, and it takes place in Gander, Newfoundland, and which was a small town. And the population, so they had to divert a bunch of planes that were flying, you know, headed through or around New York or to New York. And this small town with this airport that hadn't really been used in a long time had to take in 38 planes that landed.
Oh my God.
And the population of this small town essentially doubled overnight. And the story is about how these Canadians accepted people from really all around the world, Americans, people from Africa, people from the Middle East, people from all over, because of international flights that just landed in this small town in Newfoundland. And these people just extended their loving arms. They welcomed people into their home. They came together because there was a time of crisis, a time of need. And it's really about that human spirit, that's togetherness, again, coming together in these hard times. And we're going through such a hard time right now as a world, you know. Exactly. And so it's really about like, this wasn't about, are you Canadian? Are you American? Are you what? It was people from all over the world that just had to figure out a way to survive this attack. And I think the same thing can be said here. This isn't the whole world. We're having to work together now to try to defeat, you know, this pandemic. And so I really think that this is going to be a great show to return to. I think it's going to give hope. It's going to remind us of who we are as people. and I think it's the perfect show to come back after something like this.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
In the show description, ladies and gentlemen, we will link you to Mirvish's website and the Come From Away website, so you can get all the information you can about Mirvish's upcoming show, Come From Away.
Yes.
Kyle, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Absolute blast.
Me too.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me this week on Weird Careers. Please don't forget to give us a review, and if you liked us, we would love 4 stars as well. These really help us get noticed on Apple Podcasts as well as other streaming platforms. Join me next week. We have Trish, who has been all over the world and behind bars because of a camera. How did she get there? Find out next week on Weird Careers. Until then, I'm E.T. Thanks for listening. Cheers.